start now. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming. I'll just quickly do a quick introduction about the theme and the speaker and everything. So I'm Grant. I'm a student in Bahrain, and this is Brandon, who's a student in CSM. So this event is a student-led kind of architecture talk series, this is going to be our first talk series of the year. So we are very grateful to have both architects coming, and they kindly agreed to give us the talk. So we have Ahmed, who's the partner at FALA, who is an architecture firm based in Porto, in Portugal, and Jaewon, who's the principal of AOA Architect, based in Seoul, in Korea. So the whole talk, kind of the structure of the talk, will be a dialogue between them, but it will start with both architects talking about their work, each going to take about 45 minutes, and then they'll lead into a dialogue and conversation between them, and our tutor, Ivan, who's a design tutor in the ballet, will kind of lead the conversation and then talk about the themes. And then after that, there will be a question session. And then now, Brandon will introduce the theme of the talk.
Thank you everyone for attending, and we would also like to extend our gratitude to Jaewon, Ivan, and Ahmed for taking us up on this gamble, because it was quite a crazy idea that we had that started a couple of months ago, but we never imagined that it could turn into something like this. And as Grant mentioned, we have many more planned in the future, including a workshop by Jaewon within the next week. So let's begin. The condition of anonymity, or rather the theme of tonight's talk, is inherently intertwined with that of the image. It is the painter, Francis Bacon, who famously stated that I know what I want to do, but do not know how to bring it about. I foresee it, and yet I hardly ever carry it out as I foresee it. It transforms itself by the actual paint. I don't, in fact, very often know what the paint will do. And it does many things which are very much better than I could make it do. So, Bacon's formula towards creating a painting, in other words, was to embody a completely illogical process of creation in order to achieve a logical outcome, in order to avoid the inevitability of the image. In the book, The Logic of Sensation by Gilles Deleuze, he categorizes Bacon's inevitability of the image as cliché. Quote, "It would be a mistake to think that the painter works on a white and virgin surface. The entire surface is already invested virtually with all kinds of cliches, which the painter will have to break with." End quote. With the invention of the internet, the same cliches and inevitabilities of Bacon and Deleuze that up until that point remained at least somewhat hidden have emerged and multiplied from their burrows, infinite cliches that multiply, stretching to infinity, one upon the other, cannibalizing its precursor before being reconsumed itself. The collapse of the panoptical dialectic in favor of a polyoptical system of control has birthed a new meaning to the concept of a cliché, namely, one that does not designate a cliché at all within the context of infinite, indistinguishable clichés. It is a completely autonomous object that cannot be categorized as singularity or cliché. It is here that we witness the creation of something entirely new, the anonymous subject. It is the feeling of déjà vu, unintelligible images, infinite copies, and horrifying repetition that we find ourselves in today. The ultimate suspension, the thrill of absolute nothingness. It is between absolute autonomy and inevitable cliché that architecture and architects today must address. There is no choice here, only inevitability. We cannot escape the totality of the cliché, we can only embody it, and through it regain some semblance of autonomy. And I would like to conclude this introduction with a brief quote from Fernando Pessoa. "It is noble to be timid, illustrious not to know what to do. Great to have no talent for living. I am a well of gestures never made, of words never thought or spoken, of dreams I forgot to dream until the end. I am the ruins of buildings that were never more than ruins that someone in the midst of building them grew tired of even wanting to build." And with that, please give a warm welcome to Ahmed and Jaewon.
lectures, and because at this time is my first lecture in English, and sorry. English, and this time is my first lecture out of Korea. So I'm not good at English, so if you understand, I will appreciate. Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you to CSM and Bartlett. I am very honorable to give a chance to give a lecture here. This lecture title is Rigor and Joke in Architecture or Love and Resignation. It is a current state of my mind, virtually. This image, I draw this image, this draw 2021 Korean architecture magazine Space asked me your current situation in COVID area, what do you think about that? So I eventually express my life is very complex, and my life is complicated and multiplicated. But in Korea, I think many people see the life is very simple and make architecture very simplified and neat and clear. So, but for me, my situation is very complex and very dirty. So in this drawing, you can see there are many happenings simultaneously. A man give a Zoom lecture without pants, and then a baby crawling to him for feeding. Many hobby objects scattered around. So I think basically my thought is complicated life. Before introduce my project, I feel needed to introduce Korean history very shortly. Korea has suffered Japanese-Korean period 1910 to 1945, and then 5 years later, Korean War break. It's 1953 end. It means Korea have discontinuity in the Western modernism. During Western modernism, Korea have a real break in the cultural context in the world. And the second meaning is it's Korea culture. Korean current situation is very mingled with Japanese culture and European culture and USA culture and Korean culture. Because basically Japan have an association with Europe during the war, so Japanese culture and European culture, and USA troop is during the war troop in the Korea, so Korea is very influenced by USA culture. Basically, Korea have a very strong tradition and their own character. So its four character is very mingled and mixed at the same time. But Korea is this picture pictured 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. Korean people have a character very diligent and clever, so they very fast developed that during the war. So Japanese culture and European culture, and USA troop is during the war troop in the Korea. So Korea is very influenced by USA culture. basically, Korea have a very strong tradition and their own character. So its four character is very mingled and mixed at the same time. But Korea is this picture pictured 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. Korean people have a character very diligent and clever, so they very fast develop their economy and erase their economy and set the rank, top high rank in the economy ranking in the world economic situation. During it only just take 60 years so they get up their nation's economy. So what I want to say is very fast growth is emerged in Korea, and when you move very fast, finally you got the stomach ache like that. Korea helped support the side effects in these days. Left image is Seoul Ferry disaster in 2014. That is high school, innocent high school students drawn by sea during the vacation trip. I think that is evidence of extreme capitalism. And recently, as you know, in Korea, President Yoon declared the martial law. It is about a few months ago. It's happening seems like a crisis of democracy. As a Korean architect, I live in there. I just every day already face this type of news. I getting so crazy. 20 years ago, I studied religious philosophy in the graduation school. The distinctive book, the rough book, is Thousands of Plato. Its subtitle is Capitalism and Schizophrenia. Deleuze described schizophrenia and capitalism as a panopticon system, and he describes schizophrenia not a merely mental disease, but a sparking creativity process. This is a very meaningful for me this time. Right book is Theory of Escape by the Japanese philosopher Asada Akira. He defined people two kind of person. One is a schizophrenic person, and second one is paranoia person. You can imagine the paranoia person. You can see the everywhere in capitalism era. And schizophrenic person is a kind of nomadic. He is always living in the edge, not the center. He has no hierarchy. He always starts at the ground zero, and at every moment, every point, he already ready to escape. I think it's a meaningful attitude in living and overcome the crisis of these days, I think. I live in Seoul. This is our image. This image here from the Porto music video. This dance company is Korean. Their name is ambiguous dance company. Some foreign professor said Korea Seoul as a writing, you see the image of Seoul is a vibrant and aggressive or something. It's full of positivity and harmony. I think Seoul city is full of contradiction. This is a newspaper a month ago. The title is "The Reason Why Korean Movies Are So Good Because of Poor Society." It struck my head and it asked me to change my mind that it needed we need a paradigm shift to see our current situation. In this image, he is a Switzerland person working in the film industry in Korea for 10 years. So, he said like this, as a foreigner, he will better see more directly in Korea. This is image from filmmaker Park Chan-wook. Park Chan-wook is very famous for the recent film Decision to Live about 2 years ago. He is also photographer, very professional. He asked me just see without your reality, without any filter, just comfort your reality, your situation. It's a very, I think, the image is very beautiful and content on its beauty is very touching. So to overcome the reality and jumping over then, rather than jumping over, I suggest the cross-thinking with dirty clothes and we controlling the ground in the military service. You know? I'm not sure what I'm saying is to communicate with you aware. In the art history, you can see the mannerism. As you know, mannerism is an expression of crisis of this era. In that time, religion is collapsed. Many of our artists try to hide the crisis, not to hide the crisis, reveal the crisis, choice to reveal the crisis. For example, Michelangelo, for example, case. This drawing is have a exaggerated expression and out of order. Is finally is view bring distinctive beauty. I think in 17th century in Korea, Joseon Dynasty, this title is Tiger and Magpie. It's a magpie gently look at the tiger. Tiger's body is distorted and his face is very ugly and graphic. This is a kind of satire in Korea, overcome the method of overcome the crisis. This is an image that a kind of thumbnail board made from my brain during the design and from the street when I'm committing during the eating something and in every day. This image have a very loose connection to each other. Have some is have no connection and no it's arrangement. It have no hierarchy. I want to introduce to some image. This board called I named explain high referential architecture. I want to introduce some image. This one is jjamyeon. Jjamyeon is a kind of Chinese fusion Chinese food. You can see the two kinds of completely different food put together in one dish. When I go to restaurant, I have a problem to what I have to do, what I have to eat. Right one, left one, because both is delicious. So Korean invented this type of half and half dish. This is based on co-effectiveness, I think. For me, this is very important symbol to express the Korean spirit, have a contrast in their mind ways. This image captured from my client's house in the Bear Brick. Bear Brick figure is interested in my designing in the house, this type of opening. I think the opening on the wall is the evidence of technology in their era. This is Roman, this is Gothic, this is Venetian, this is modern Islamic wiki. Sometimes I'm wondering about this image is Cameroon's soccer team's color composition. It is very similar to Korean traditional painting on the wooden pellets. It is called as a dancho. It's very similar. I'm not. I didn't get answer yet, but I'm still curious about that. What I guessing is Cameroon is tropical country, tropical area, and Korea have many angles, many have a basically dynamic character. So I'm not sure, but okay. In Korea, porto is very popular, and whereas people the hobby. So this work exercise net, very giant net, will suddenly appear in working in our neighbor building between the buildings. This is very Korean tradition. This is Korean national treasure, Incheon Sagi. It's just white painting. Just left. They are dropping the randomly, not finished portrait. This is not finished in terms of not finishing, in terms of ambiguity. I refer it the Corbusiers Villa Schwab. It's not a classical and not a modernism. It's between the hybrid mobility. Okay. This one is, you can see the Gangnam area. Gangnam is very commercial street. So you can see the crowd climbing up the wall outside. Very surreal condition. And it reminds me of Robert Battery's Formula Dog and Temperature. It's recycling waste waiting for I capture this image. When I see this is a furniture for woman. It is a foundation, and I don't know exactly. Well, I think I feel sad. Yeah. This is a Michelangelo sculpture, not finished sculpture. This is a Francis Bacon's painting in representation of brushing before the finishing. Maybe many things have ambiguity in this between each image and image. Now, the basic measure, the fragment whole can be beautiful. Okay. This one is the multi-family housing in West Seoul, west from the center of Seoul. It's consists of 13 units. It is located at the end of the road. The client asked me to make a distinctive figure, distinctive from the road. So I make this kind of mask to hide the unit. Basically, client was a developer. Developer wants to put the unit as many as possible. So I achieved that. And as you know, in the architectural history, we can see the many places and Kyoto and maybe Berlin. And in everyday life, we encounter some of cute cat. This is a Spanish family dog on the question. I tried very sophisticatedly to locate the window. This window is a mouth of cat. This window is opposite to the entrance and naturally divided space to the living room and dining room. And this in the artist space, diamond window is light on the floor. It is no noise, no joke. Cat. It's like that. Do you know the kawaii notion? Kawaii comes from the Japanese animation. I think it is very important for my architecture because only thing to depict the beauty is the kawaii, cuteness. Cuteness is make a people very relaxed and love the object target. And so cuteness is my methodology to approach to the public. Sometimes it's a robot figure, it looks like a cat, or sometimes it looks like our. It's a multi-family house in the same area of previous project in Mangwon-dong. Mangwon-dong is consists of this kind of reddish 2 or 3 story building housing. So I want to try to make a new context, a new avoiding the using brick, red brick. I used the red tile, very small tile, 10 by 10 centimeter, very small tile. It comes from the computer screen, and pixelized the elevation. And in Korea, in residential area, have some limitation diagonal line like this. So I want to express, make a opposite side to same like that. So it is free from the any regulation in terms of form. Finally, I make a symmetry. Symmetry is about the people remind some object. It is connected to the familiarity and the previous slide. And cuteness is connected to the symmetry. And by doing so, I tried in the Minecraft game. I make my building two floor. This is real or not? So this is made from the Minecraft game. Someone remind of strawberry ice cream, and someone reminds this building of red cactus. And sometimes it looks like a Belgian state game house. It's a popular analogy. It's very important for my project. During my core project, it have a tendency to have being symmetry. So it's like that. This image comes from the language of postmodernism by Charles Jenks. He described Longchamp building. It's some hand and more dark and modern. Some it's a metaphor interpretation. At the facade, this is a rustification delivered from the Italian palace, obviously. But I use it use it improperly in grammar. This stone is heavy, feeling of heavy stone is lying on the lintel. Lintel is made of styrofoam, cladding with a tile. This lintel is very light and fake lintel, so lintel is having the keystone location is wrong. This is, I think, break of grammar, of Western grammar. It is back to relation to the mixed culture during the Korean history. In the plan, I want to locate column in the center of the house. This column operates as bifurcating the room by two. This one is a bedroom, and this one is kitchen. This is the living room. This T-shape. The plan is working by columns. This column is like that in the house. This glass brick have a logic connection to kitchen and bedroom each other. Sometimes it's meat or bread. I think. This project is multi-family housing. Previous project shared the area. This project, Mawandong. Basically, this project, client always want have no money to pursue the project. Always client do the same. So this is original building is like that. It's a very cheap canopy made by polycarbonate sheet. Very cheap staircase and wall. Red brick, and this is a kind of cornice. I think this kind of element is distinctive in this building, like other building constructed in the 70, 80 time in Korea. It's constructed by a local constructor. It's not accepted by architect. So I decided to just leave this kind of cliche, and then I paint the background with white. So I want to this kind of element to finally have a different one from the context. Obviously, I have a reference of the margin vision, so they construct the contextualization, and in the mirror image you can see the reference of James Sterling's entrance. This is a floating element in the whole building. This is one front facade. It's a mix with very different elements, very red cornice and stone work stone, and it comes from the provision early work, leaf shape of resin. It's definitely James Sterling influence. In the flat configuration, you can see the column is intentionally located very near to the wall. I want to express the free plan. And the important thing is corner column highly by into the wall. So I reinforced inserted structure like this. Finally, I want to it look like a very plastic object with a color. Looks like that. I think it is a little bit, even though it is a very structural element, it looks as a very unstructured. I have some principle in designing. It's called 3B. 3B means big, bold, brave. Intentionally, I use the big, bold, brave element because I usually have a project with a lack of money by clients. So clients always want to well maintaining and durable lady always want. So okay, I will do that. So it looked like a snake in the staircase. It's an overscaled canopy. It's a userless because it cannot prevent the dropping water and rain. It's just a decorative. It have a very strange grammar structurally. It need this kind of element for me. And so this board beam for the rustic stones. Final project. Recently I finished it last year. This is very small housing around the area 80 square meter. This is a very traditional area in Seoul. It's called Seoul. I want to make a house like a house. You can see the many houses in Korea like that. It's a flat roof with a red brick. But I would like to make a house look like a children's drawing. And this is such an area, basically the site have a character of a very old Hanok and traditional house in Korea is spread. So I studied rural typology like that and make a very simple form and then intentionally attach it to the facade at the different angle for the parking garage for the room. In the second floor, definitely I admire the conservation art. So I expressed with one column supporting the whole roof. Of course, this and perimeter wall is road bearing, but I want to intentionally put the column to reduce the thickness of slab, the roof slab. This is a frontal elevation. It have many elements in here, and just very light and very thin loop. This heavy stone is on the very thin and light loop, and this different kind of loop, and you can see. Look closely, you can find this facade is a little bit folded because that is folded. And this for me, this is very, very important for this project. It's the make a severe circumstance and the facade and in the living room. This is the plan drawing. I want to in the ground floor make many material combination I would to perform. And this ground floor consists of servant spaces like laundry and toilet, working room, and upper floor is only for the living. It's a children's room, master bedroom, and living room. It's a corner. Column is not located on the edge of the triangle point. It is a little bit off-centered because it is completely constructed. It is not a wooden construction. So I think it is a kind of tectonic expression, I think. I intentionally mix up the various of material, even if this house is very small. In this case, in general, many architects want to make one monolithic interior one monolithic out figure but I intentionally I want to break the space. I want to articulate it more and more. So I use this type of material. This is right. You can see the red marble and white oak wall. This tile is imported from the metal wall to pin up the children's drawing. And too complicated interior. This is our life. During the mistake of construction company, this stair not fit to the railing. You can see this kind of small bar is. I think I tried to make a construction. Construction site, and during the construction of port, I want to make a new design on these things. So it's like that. And you can see this tile, and this is a bar hanger. This is a result of lack of this finishing panel is lack 1 centimeter because our worker. Have a mistake. So I insert the bar with carving the shape for hanging the head or something. Okay. This house have a very small house inside. It's a kind of Japanese tea room. In the night. I would like to conclude with this writing. It may seem like a strange paradox, but the pride of our modern poet today lies not in the being ahead, but in being aware of being behind. If a poet is ahead, it is in the sense that they are firmly and confidently conscious of this being behind. It is not the poet's responsibility that our modern poetry lacks as much as our reality does, but it is the poet's responsibility if they fabricate poetry that seems unaffected by our lagging reality. Its quote comes from the Korean poet Soo Young-kim in 1964. I think it is very same with our situation as an architect in Korea, in the world. Thank you very much.
So first, thanks Jaewon for the lecture. I think there will be a lot of points of connection actually, some even that surprised me. And I want to thank also Brendan and everyone else that made it, that organized this moment. I'm very happy to be invited
than part of this. I think the image is a bit stretched out somehow. Was that the illusion? Is it possible? It's just this one. No, it's blurred. Okay. So yes, our name is FALA. We are practice based in Porto, in Portugal. We are also working from Switzerland lately, and we are a bunch of people doing architecture essentially. We started a bit more than 10 years ago now, 11, almost 12 years now. And we have built quite a few projects, designed much more than that. And this is a bit where we are now. Most of our work is residential, relatively small scale, in quite different Portuguese contexts. Let's say these are the same two projects from the side. And trying to reflect on this question of anonymity, that is the title of today's event, I started, let's say, wondering about what could be anonymity for an architect. In a sense, I think this title will explain itself through the presentation. But I will also have a sort of short introduction to the whole. That is also about, let's say, it's not because I'm talking after Jaewon today, but it's also about the paris-est, and we have seen transmission once again. It is because those are architects and thinkers that we have been discussing in the practice for quite a long time, and actually that I also wrote a PhD about recently. So this is Kazushi Nohara in 1964. He writes that the house is a work of art, and the art lies in the ways that the design of the house will become the society. And if it does not become a work of art, it has no reason to exist. This is related to what Jaewon explained about the Korean situation in the 50s, of course. Here in Japan, this is also in the 50s and 60s a moment when there's a huge need for housing, and which means a lot of, let's say, streamlined industrial construction of housing. And here actually Shinohara is opposing that, and proposing that houses should try to critique society to have a sort of a stance that is not only fulfilling the function, but that has other dimensions. And to go, I will not dive deeply to that, but in the very same year, a thinker that will become quite important for Shinohara, Kojitaki, writes an article about an exhibition that Shinohara does in a department store. And this is the article. It's called Declaration of Unity. It has no images, even though that guy is also a photographer, and he doesn't sign the article. I mean, he signs just with a T, as you can see on the right. And he says a lot of good things about Shinohara and about the exhibition, but he also attacks his position and this idea that the house should embed the subjectivity of the architect. And he writes, that's a bit the juicier bit, why do we feel that the space Shinohara claims and his space are inseparable? If he feels like insisting on a pathological space, this is an expression of Shinohara, it might be a good idea to be a little less narcissistic, which, in a sense, he proposes that one should try to be critical, but without making it about subjectivity. And actually, as he is a photographer, he will start photograph some of Shinohara's buildings in the years after that. And progressively, his photography becomes more and more abstract. One could say, in the sense that he tries to erase the subject on some level, erase the author himself, the photography at the same time, and try, in a sense, through these photographs to construct and show an image of the building that is not just a pure description, but something else. And it leads, in the beginning of the 70s, to this extreme, where together, in a sense, in parallel, Shinohara starts doing houses that are more and more abstract, in a way trying to erase any kind of predetermined language. And the photography does the same. And so this is a very widely published magazine in 1971, where there is a description on the bottom that is pure one vertical space, staircase leading to the second floor living room. The four openings are air conditioning outlets. I'm still looking for them. In a way, both of them hit a sort of dead end. But it's also a dead end that will inspire a lot of architects, and this thinking of the house as something that could be, let's say, both fulfilling a need but also criticize a critical object in a certain manner, is extremely influential. And we, this is 2022, we were invited during COVID to a year of teaching at the University of Toronto, and we started mapping these hundreds of houses that were published in the following 2 or 3 decades. And it became, a quite exciting journey, a way to travel while being locked in our rooms. And it became that weird object without an author that is a bit a compendium of, let's say, radical approaches to the house. And one of the, let's say, what interested us most was, Shinohara on the one hand, but also the generation that came after him, including, for example, Mitsuko Hasegawa. She writes a few years later, but about that moment, that it was apparent from the start that none of the clients wished me to design a dwelling that would be a creative architectural work. So in a certain manner, the question of the author criticizing the society through his or her subjectivity is totally, falls flat from her perspective, and her generation needed to find other ways to approach residential work. And just to give one example, which I think relates to, in some level, to the house that Jaewon showed last. This is Sakamoto, Kazunari Sakamoto, who makes a house that clearly tries to look like a child's drawing of a house, and in a way plays with banality, with the conventional imagery of a house. But at the same time, he tries to find other ways to erase the thinking of the architect, or the hand of the architect in the design, and to make that pattern. So for example, you can see that it seems at first hand as a very banal house, but if you look at the longitudinal elevation, you have windows, and there are posts, pillars that are falling, say, conflicting with the windows. And he theorizes that, let's say, an architectural project is made of different logics that can conflict in a certain manner, and it is through these moments that one can see, let's say that the project is made of these, let's say, coexisting objects. And this is the critical dimension of the house. And in a sense, these are all things we discuss very openly in the office on a daily basis. We have tried to find other ways to question what a domestic project could be. For example, in this case, by doing as little as possible. This is a garage in Lisbon that we were asked to transform into a house, and we tried really to do the bare minimum and to keep the space almost as it was. I mean, of course, it is also entirely different. To wonder also, for instance, can an element, like a column, have its own will in a certain manner, to be something that has other reasons to exist than simply being a structural object? Or in other cases, like this one, making a very, let's say, making the main facade of a project, the back facade, so totally reverting the way the urbanity of Porto functions, because all the street facades are being protected of these old buildings, and in the back we needed to do new facades, so we try to shift the hierarchies in a sense. In another example here, this is a house, a single family house that we were asked to design here. And you can see that in this neighborhood you have big developments of 5-6 levels of apartments that have this sort of soft modern vibe. And then you have older houses with pitch roofs. And so in the end, our project has the scale of the bigger buildings, but tries to have the language of the newer ones. So it plays a bit this ambiguous game. But we also, let's say, looking very intently at what is around us. These type of buildings that are not very light, for instance, in Porto, we call them ugly ducks. They are, let's say, this is typically Porto anonymous architecture from the 50s all the way to the 70s or early 80s, let's say. And some of them are quite fabulous. We started, let's say, collecting them, photographing them with a photograph and documenting the energy that is there. That is something that, let's say, is very close to us, historically speaking, but that is totally being dismantled these days. So these buildings are not liked. Most of them, many of them are being transformed to look like older buildings. It's quite paradoxical situation. But today I will show, I think, 5 projects. I will try to be quick. I have quite a few slides. The first one is the transformation project that we finished quite recently. It is one of these older buildings that are more like the ones I showed before. It is an old house. There used to be actually an architectural office, an architect living there with his office, let's say. And but the building was crumbling, let's say, had many problems, and let's say our client bought it and wanted us to transform it. So we basically kept as much as possible, also because the budget was quite low. But we proposed a new narrative, something that adds to the existing. And for the facade, it's a few simple gestures. There's just the new window frames with this yellow color that contrasts with the pintals, and the new door is white. There is just a bit of marble where some tiles were broken, and that also tries to balance the door. And at the front there is this, let's say, hat that is made of metal that actually comes from a technical need to solve that corner, but that also becomes a kind of abstract billboard, if you want a billboard without any message, in a sense that's not totally unrelated to, we're actually discussing the same house by Le Corbusier that Jaewon showed in National Film that has this white abstract screen. And so this is the plans as we found them. Quite intricate, a lot of rooms, including some without many types of rooms. We basically kept everything that could be kept, but we needed to add reinforcement to the structure, so we just added one line of structure in the middle where it made no sense. And in a sense, as opposed to the column I showed before that was fine, here those elements and the relationship to the existing is what makes the project. So this is the project in its totality. The bottom level is the one where there are the most changes. Everything else is just a few tiny additions. These are the additions. And so of course we're also looking at some projects, for instance, Shinohara here on the left, where you have this almost conflicting relationship between, let's say, the white rooms and the very balanced structure. Or on the right, in Belgium, let's say, this relationship between existing and old, but in a very expressive manner. And of course, here again, the question of what is exactly the offer and its multiplicities, but also mirrors, of course, where we try to play in a strategic manner to decompose that space from the inside. So there are, in the end, we kept the existing, we just played with a lot of touches of paint, looking up. So the structure here makes sense. Let's say it is really where we need structure, but we try to make it a very expressive thing. Plastic, as Jaewon mentioned, for this project, for instance. And there is one of these columns that falls within the central staircase. And so here, if you want, it's a quite cosmetic project, but at the same time, it gives a totally new life to that house. This is what we added, and here with existing. And then you have a few quite special moments, for example, at the bottom where we change the most. I'll try to go fast with these. Sometimes the column falls in front of the door or in front of the window. Sometimes it falls in the most perfect place in the corner where it doesn't disturb so much. And then you have this collection of rooms that are tied by this new glamour that and where we have, let's say, where the system meets the facade, we added here as well a few mirrors that suggest that the system could be infinite. In the back side, there is this weird space that existed already that is where historically people added bathrooms to existing buildings that didn't have them, but that became a sort of greenhouse. And here as well we played with mirrors because you have this sort of double facade system, so it becomes a reflective space in between two facades. This is the kind of play of lights that happen there, and you get these old stone frames around the windows that seem to be floating. It's like a surreal space. And in the back facade we also we had to rebuild it quite significantly, but we also played with mirrors here, combined with local marble to cover the same themes. And this is the garden, and this is the back facade in its totality, which has the same height as the front. And when one takes photographs with a flash at night, you get that quite odd the thing you normally don't get at night, which is that you see the columns appearing on the street. Another project we finished recently is this one, which is a totally different setting in rural Portugal, where some clients basically bought a quite big piece of land and asked us to make 3 buildings there of different sizes. 2 that are housing, and 1 that is more of a multifunctional space for events. And of course, you get that question of how to make 3 buildings that are at the same time one project. And we decided to have one system to tie them together. And so there are 3 half-circular shapes because they are nested in the landscape, and this is the most rational shape to hold the earth. And then in each of them there is a different proportion of space that is common, let's say, so living room for the houses, and in the biggest building it's the event hall. And so we just have 3 directions for that. And then we were starting to wonder, okay, we have this system, but we need smaller, more intricate, we need more rooms within the non-common parts of each of these. And we were convinced from the start that it needed to be a different logic, not one that would come from the circles. And so we considered many different options for this. And we understood that basically this is where it would make sense to bring something that is not ours, in a sense. And so it became this. And these are 3 plans from 3 houses actually built in the same year. 1976, if I remember correctly, in 3 different continents by 3 different architects. And this is a totally arbitrary decision. It was just, we just needed to find something that works, and something that doesn't come from the logic of the other gestures I mentioned before. And of course, in a sense, it's this quotation, but because they are nested in the system, it becomes something you would never, let's say, guess when you experience the space. So this is the system, if you will, 3 buildings of different sizes, the quoted plans inside of them, structure where needed, and these are the 3 buildings. So they are just 3 glass facades. That's how they appear on the site. They have the same section. Of course, some are deeper, but that's it. And this is how we imagine them on the site. So if you want the seasons, everything will exist around them, and the only thing you would perceive is, let's say, these glass openings, and the blue box is just the chimney, the ventilation. So three of them, and how they are disposed on the site. It's a quite heavy and paradoxical construction site because, of course, you need to attack the site quite drastically to do something that almost disappears in here. These are the walls to retain the earth, of course. And this is the bigger space as it is finished now. The wall that separates the common space to the rest is always in this darker color. Everything else is relatively in contrast with what it's detailed. And then, well, the columns look like candy, of course. And we also make cuteness. And these are the spaces within the quoted plans, if you want. I mean, I guess nobody would ever guess where the drawing comes from when experiencing. This is a bit what we were looking for. These are some of these other spaces. And here we decided to play with more striking colors than usual. Actually, that was an experiment. Actually, it was funny that the construction workers were very scared of that color, or in the construction company. But the clients liked it, so we went for it, and actually, I think it was quite good. This is the main space again, and here, from outside, with sun shading, of course. And we also played with a bit of green Portuguese marble on the sides that you see, so that hopefully it mingles with the greenery around, then it goes back. And this is how it goes. Then there are some stones that were dug out when building this that we collaborated with landscape designers called FALA that suggested to make the landscape around them in a sense, so they are scattered on the site. And in the end, the goal is that these buildings hopefully disappear on some level. This is how it looks like now, but of course the greenery will take over even more soon. Another project, this is a house in Lisbon that we finished a couple of years ago. It is on this very sloped site in between two buildings, this one. The slope is extremely strong. It was a bit of a topic, but for the garden. But the volume was basically given. You had to align to the neighboring buildings. So basically, as you can see, the neighboring buildings are 3 levels high, so this is what you are about to build, in a sense. And the municipality was only concerned by this. They were requiring that we would have a regular grid of openings, and they imposed the horizontal distance between these openings. So we decided, okay, we have to play with this, so we can see this facade. Of course, the horizontal rhythm was imposed, but the vertical one wasn't, so we decided to tweak that. This is the garden side, and this is the street side, exactly the same, geneva for scale. And this is on the street side. As you can see, it feels like a bit like the building I showed at the very beginning. It looks like a 5 or 6 level buildings, like the ones that are in the back of the image, but it is the same size as the 3 levels buildings around. So there is something a bit odd with the scale of this building, like this. And actually, it's because the clients needed 3 bedrooms plus living, dining, an office, and a garage, and this would never fit neatly in the 3 levels we were allowed to do. And we understood that with the slope of the site, we could manage half a level more. So we actually have 3.5 levels, and it became this split level system. So on each level, you have 2 rows of windows. You understand. But it meant also this quite unusual thing that in every single room of the building, you have 2 orientations, at least 4 windows, in most cases like this 8. And also that we needed, let's say, you need to be quite inventive to furnish this, so you have to design quite a bit of the furniture here to make it work. So these are the plans. So of course, as in many of our projects, we try to reduce circulation to the very minimum. Here it is only a staircase. You have then the main rooms on each side of the staircase, on each half level, and then you have service rooms after the main rooms, in most cases bathrooms. And each of these rooms passes through the system. These are just the walls that separate, and the system moves through, where you can see the level system how it functions. This is the top rooms under the vault. And the other thing is that we decided to make the whole system transparent also in the other direction with those glass bricks. This also meant that everything became a very tight, like clockwork-like system, because the glass bricks have a defined dimension, and of course the whole project depends on that. This is the top level, this is the kitchen. This is the living that is at the very top, where you have a more compressed, more intimate setting with only low windows. And this is from the living looking back to the kitchen. The whole system again with the facades, which were actually the first driving factor for this whole thing. And here we also take the mirrors, for instance, to let's say visually separate the building to the neighbors of the buildings. This at night with this quite odd scale, it's quite unusual because sometimes you see somebody passing through behind the windows, but you only see their legs. It's a very special way. Then this project is housing in Porto, which here again there are two kinds of neighbors that we were playing with in a sense. It is in this area where you have factories, and on the other side of the street you have housing blocks. And our client bought that plot here, which is in between two factories, and used to have a factory. This is after demolition, actually, but asked us to do housing there. So it is in this quite weird situation. Of course, we're looking at similar examples in Porto, like Caesar here, that play with row houses in a sense. And this is the factory that used to be there, which had to be demolished, but the municipality told us you can build as maximum volume the volume of that building. But the other rule is that there is a maximum amount of square meters you can build, which is less than 2 levels of this. So we told the client, okay, we're going to use that discrepancy to make the project. So we laid out a system of, this is a place next to a new train station, so the client wanted as many studios as possible because he thinks there are going to be commuters that need that there. So there is a system of identical apartments, all the same square meters, all with the same bathroom in the back and main room in the front. But from this, we will make them all different. That was it. And use the excessive volume to make them all different. And so you have some that orient in a different direction, some that have an exception around the staircases that go to the top floor, some that have 8 meters of ceiling height, some that have access to a rooftop terrace, etc., etc. And this diversity became really the drive of the project. So 15 equal apartments, but different. And here again, it becomes a collection of domestic spaces, like this. And then there were 2 that were stubbornly the same, so we added the fine pink on simply to make that different. This was during construction. This is the structure as it was being finished. You can see the fine color in the middle. And this is the whole system looked at together. So it is between this regularity and diversity that we are searching for something. And construction, the whole volume together. And here, well, a bit like in Jaewon's project, there is a cat face looking towards the highway and the train lines in between. So the last apartment gets reduced to us. This is the street side, in between factories. And the language of the whole project plays with that ambiguity. So it has a volume that feels industrial, but some of the windows point at something more domestic. This is a bit what it plays. This is the cat face from the And then the last project I will show is actually a small set of projects. We, these three. A couple of years ago, the Portuguese government got some funding from the European Union to recover from COVID times, and they decided to build social housing with it, because there's a dire need of affordable housing, especially in the area of Lisbon. And so they launched dozens, actually 42 if I recall correctly, social housing competitions within a few months. And we participated in about 20 of them, and we won 3 in the end. But these competitions are quite bad in terms of the quality of architecture they produce. This is how things are judged in this supposedly objective manner. And after doing 10, 15 of them and losing them all brilliantly, and always with very, very bad grades, we understood there was no point in trying to do something we thought was good and to win the guy. Because all the winners were always this, with a few minor details, but always this repetition of exactly the same typologies. There is always a very strict separation between the bedroom areas and the common areas. There is always the same circulation system, always 2 lifts per staircase, even when the building is 3 levels high, close to the basement, etc., etc. And so we decided, okay, we do this to win it. This is also, let's say, the rigidity and the conservatism of these plans also applies to the interior images, which are always the same pseudo-minimalist beige, Scandinavian furniture, etc. And so we decided, okay, we give them that, and like this we won 3. And we thought, okay, what do we do with that? And we then tried to change the projects after winning them, which so far seems like it's working. The projects are evolving with new faces. And this is the first one. There is a plot like, no, let's see, there's a block and a bar, which, I mean, our main idea was, once again, to get rid of as many circulation halls as possible, to open the rooms to each other, to make the definition of the functions of the room less rigid. So, for example, you have a double door that would allow this room to open to the main space, or to become more of an office, for instance. So we try to de-rigidify a bit the whole. Also, we play with structure, so it's always easier to convince these people with things that are supposedly necessary, like structure. And so we play with it, placing it where we want it. Of course, sometimes in the printing matter. We tried also to question the language of the interiors. So this is all things that, if we had showed them in the competition stage, we would be kicked out from the very first minute. These are the new facades as well. Where here we also played with, let's say, quite easy to produce in mass quantity elements, some from catalogs, for instance. This is the second one, which here plays more with, I mean, it's always based on the question of the room, but in a different manner, where here even the staircase is embedded within one of room of the same module as the bedrooms, for instance. And here only the lifts, because this is a gallery access, only the lifts have are exceptions within the general spatial system. And this is the interiors. And here we always play also with what is necessary. So, for example, skirtings, the endings of walls, to try to make the thing a bit more lively than what is expected. Here the facade has a more vertical system as opposed to the previous one. So try to make it as expressive as possible. And the last one, which is the biggest, is this one in Armada. The volumetry was given, as is always in these competitions, so 3 identical volumes, basically. Within the side that has a quite strong slope, so the 2 first levels are some commercial spaces and mostly parking, and then you have the bars above that. This is how it should be built. The general system, basically, the general module. I mean, we couldn't find the 2 lifts actually because it seems actually they really want 2 lifts to be able to not repair right away when one doesn't work anymore. This is a bit of a stupid reason to have 2 lifts, but still. So here, once again, it's a matter of making the rooms as appropriable as possible, and to do that with very simple means. At the ends of the system, you have 2 exceptions for bigger apartments. On the one side with this step shape, on the other side with that oblique steps. And this is what we hope it will look like when it starts construction, hopefully around September. And of course, for example, making the window frames yellow was a huge discussion, but it seems like we're going to push through it. And here, I mean, we discussed cuteness before. I think the question for us was how to make these gigantic monsters a bit cute on some level or approachable, something that one might have a more effective relationship to, or to simply show that something else is possible. There is no condemnation to bear somehow. So this is what the whole will look like for me. And in the end, I think this is about making, let's say, the plurality of possible lives here a bit more visible somehow. And so, in a sense, in a way, the goal is to make it joyful, but as something, you know, that not as a, as let's say, the affirmation that there should be a joyful act there, but as something that is just a joyful company and that allows even for sadness to be at home in a sense. Yeah, and I kept the mistake at place because when it's your birthday, you can make mistakes, I suppose. So thank you. What I wanted to say is that there is no, it would be an illusion to think that one can do architecture without subjectivity at all. So I think, in a sense, architecture puts on the same plane things that are subjective and objective, things that are measurable and not measurable, and it's in the way we handle these things together that it can make sense. To do something that hopefully is still intelligible while coming from architects. Because I think we also, I think it's a good thing that we got away from, let's say, the scene organizing itself around celebrated stars whose subjectivity supposedly, in their personal genius supposedly justifies everything, and gives them the ability to do things that are not understandable. I think it's good that we got away from that. And that reason, it seems that reason is a topic again. At the same time, we shouldn't have the illusion that we think architecture or purely objective.
For me, because even if I use the computer runner things, it is also a source of my inspiration. It is equal to, I have not associated, it is not equal. It is I just capture the everyday life, everyday scene, and other things, and it always inspires me. And if I don't have a associate, I cannot say it here. No. This our, I think we cannot compute it we should not compute this associate as also associate and associate. But we cannot, we have to compute the associate and associate definition. I think another thing is if I have used it, I cannot do it.
I think it's quite interesting that obviously with housing project, the issue is almost like one concept design for different users, different inhabitants. And that sort of leads on to the other questions about, because all of the practice actually deal with quite a lot of housing projects, which in a way they don't see kind of like more natural qualities, like many other architecture might do. So what do you think about the value of housing projects in your practice? And do you think the kind of like housing projects has somehow almost like, is it something that you would embrace or sort of, yeah, like what do you think about the value of housing projects in your practice? Because it's not something that we typically engage a lot in our educations, but also in kind of like contemporary society, and we talk about in London in this case.
Housing project is very definitely very social, and it affects divides the relationship between human and human and object in everyday life. So even I question the very small housing, it obviously creates the problems. So I think housing project is some kind of philosophical need of philosopher for how do we living. So it is important. And the other thing is in the building in Korea, I think 78 of building housing problem. It is our final problem, so we feel very sophisticated life and very carefully to deal with makeup plans. We make a very small area for recycling waiting area, and it finally become more like a beautiful. If we make a small plate here, it spread to the many building, other buildings. It's getting more and more like in our relationship between human and human effective or meaningful. So I think at first I am from the practice, and first my project is housing. So when we something good in first project, the second project maybe, third project housing, it's something like that.
Yes, of course. I mean, housing is the vast majority of the building stuff. So it is the most important challenge to architects today. How do we house people in a reasonable manner with good quality water? It's the most important question. So, but at the same time, it's true that, I mean, I don't know how it is here at Harvard, but you said there's a lot of discussion on housing. In my teaching, at least, there was some housing, but at the same time, there was a lot of focus on things like museums and fantastic public programs that, let's say, the vast majority of the market doesn't have access to. So when we started with our own practitioners, we were doing some competitions about these kind of programs and using them all, obviously, but the only things we could build or that progressively we got onto projects were transformation of the bathroom, the time extension of the house, and things like this. And we had to accept that we had to put our ambitions there, but we also discovered that it was often more interesting to make that special than to make a museum special, because a museum special, all museums are funky special things, it seems. So there's no, I think it's much more heroic in the end to make a good house or a good apartment and a good museum.
I think also what's quite interesting about the four-week class is also the kind of criticality in the project and the kind of like use of humor and satire in a lot of your projects, whether through the materials and that's the color as well. And I think as you know, when I was a student, you know, we would always talk about the kind of a visionary sort of impact with the society and things like that. But when we started to, you know, practice as an architect, as an assistant here in London, a lot of times that we just get driven by the market force, and we realize that, you know, the kind of criticality that you learned and developed throughout the education is no longer sort of, you know, applicable that or that relevant anymore. So I'm just wondering, like, how do you manage such balance between the kind of criticality and also the kind of like, you know, clients and also practical work in that sense?
The question was about humor.
Yeah, humor, but also the kind of like criticality, positioning, or...
Yes. Well, I think, let's say, humor for humor's sake in the project would be a bit dangerous. But what we enjoy is when something that seems totally reasonable, rational, let's say, ends up in a funny place. This is, I think, something that's quite beautiful in the It's like, you follow reason and it brings you somewhere that you don't expect from the start. And that place has a bit of humor. So that's a bit how we approach it. But then about the relationship with clients and, for example, the client column I showed, it's a quite interesting story because it was quite a long process to explain how the client on our side for this and to build it, and he built it, and he liked it, and then his family showed up to the house, and they started making fun of it, and then he asked us to remove it. So it doesn't exist anymore. It's cut. And but so I mean, you could say it's a failure, or you could say that's facing reality on this level, or just him abandoning what he believed in or something. But it's but I think it's okay. I could also not tell you it's exists, but I think it's you have to accept also that from the moment it was built and the idea exists for us and defines where we want it. It's okay. It's still good house. I think it was better than it.
Perfect. In history, Korean history, Korean have a tendency to overcome the crisis of humor and joke. This comes from basically, I think, resignation from the reality of individuality. What can we do? Can we do anything else? We just read it. So for me, intentionally and consciously use satire and joke in my project. And so I want to make a criticism with the black joke, like a black comedy. When we see the black comedy, it's very well, very happy. But when we go back to my house, things feel like a little unpleasant. I think I want to give emotion, this kind of emotion to the client, to the public, exactly public, exactly architecture practice, our Korean system. I think basically, Korean architectural system, architectural structure is very, very bad. We need to develop, we need to correct. So I think I have no power to upside down the structure, whole structure. But I try to very small parts, very ambiguously. Yeah. So like Mannerism painting. So like folk painting in Korea, 13th century, I showed you. For me, criticism is very important. I think without criticism, it is just problem solving. Problem solving it can do by computer is more good than human, I think. In these days, AI creates new kind of form and very, very fast. But we can defeat in terms of calculation, even this computer. So critical.
Yeah.
And it is only creativity of human being, I think. So for me, it is very important, very primary goal. Especially, I work in Korea. Korea have need to be more developed in architecture. for, I think.
Do you think it's quite sort of, obviously like with the kind of capitalism that you mentioned, we sometimes also risk using the conditions as we try to get more physical about what we're trying to address and to question. How do you sort of manage, like how, obviously it's, we're quite powerless, as you said, but as a practice, like how can you withstand that sort of market force and to somehow continue with the kind of questioning the criticality that you pursued in the very beginning?
Yes. In the beginning, I think of what I can question in this project. Firstly, I look at the prior situation and what is prior situation, what is derived from what situation. Obviously, many cases comes from the desire to survive the capitalism. So I want to express how we are very hard to live. So am I, as an architect, I am hard to live. I want to express it in my architecture, fragment elements, fragment courage, schedule, on finishes. And so I don't know, but and your asking is how to manage it. Is it with client, right? Yeah. First of all, I think obviously I approached the project with the client, with the area and function and money and efficient of structure and cheap material. First of all, I communicate with the client with that, and then I put what I saw in the critical zone in the plan or relation or something. The client don't know about that. I'm not free guilty. A client don't interested in that. Yeah. And finally, they like their house, their friend, their unit, have a big money more than neighbor unit. 1.3%, 130% over than other units by local company. So client was happy and many clients with what we need always welcome to lately she spoke to me, how are you? I buy a new brand. I want to consulting with you. I hope.
I think it's the same for us, of course. When your client is in our case, we have the small promoters, and I assume that's similar to what Jaewon was describing. They care about an Excel sheet. Of course, you use that for another agenda, and it was conceived for the beginning. For example, the project I showed with the 15 studios are all different. Of course, it costs a bit more to build a bit more volume. And that was an issue to the project. We basically, he finally accepted it because he thinks that the apartments that are super tall we can sell them a bit more because the owners can do mezzanine, which would be illegal because that would count as a fraud. But let's say we know it's illegal, so we hope it doesn't happen. We think these spaces are rented out, and for us what matters is the fact that you have equal apartments that are plural, but could potentially be linked in 15 different manners with different quantities. But of course that's not what we care about. And so we try to find a way to say and I think in a way to try to bring more than just ones and zeros, something fully measurable in terms of financial efficiency and things like that. So Jaewon has mentioned cuteness and kawaii. I think this is something, for instance, that is, I think it's a very relevant thing because what is cute is something, it can actually be measured, I would say, on some level. Like, cuteness is a matter of proportions. But it's also something that, if you think, for example, of a small animal or something, it's what makes you want to care for something. It's something that says, like, I am weak and you are power and you should take care of it. This is the sort of irrational desire it creates. I think if you can use these things to make the built environment, to give it another dimension than what the market asks you, that's great. You should know that.
I think I also have a question about kind of the complex design methodology that you have. I think, for example, in FALA, I noticed that you use a lot of collages and also sometimes always have like this sort of plan drawings overlaying and understand the relationship between different floors and things like that. And I think same with Jaewon, there's a lot of kind of colors and materials and understanding of mediums in terms of the design. I just want, from the perspective of like design, like how does that come about, and do you think the kind of like methodology that you're using, is that something that you always sort of have in your mind, or is it something that you sort of happen to discover throughout your practice?
In short, what is your question?
Sorry?
In short, what is your question?
So why?
So representation methods.
Representation method, yes, that's right. Also, if that becomes like a tool for you to defend as well.
Basically, I design with my hands in the first stage, and it was a very small sketch first, and then to make a drawing with muscular ruler. I going on, and then finally make a construction to make a construction drawing to make a flat by the dimension to translate my sketch into the computer. Because I still believe in the hand sense of the from my head and flexion to hand is for me is very strong, and in first place, and we think of the concept, we have a very abstract thinking in first when we draw line with a computer. I think we need a big gap between thought and realization, the line of realization. So I think it is a medium of precision and abstraction. So I always try to very small sketch and 1 to 500 figure ground, from the figure ground to 1 to 200 from the small plan, and 1 to 100, 150, 1 to 1.5, and it is more important. And so when I teaching at school, and I always ask to my students, please use your hand. Please draw with your hand at first. Don't draw with computer. Please. But they draw with iPad drawing. Oh my God. This is my concept of representation. Especially I draw axonometric or public drawing because for me it can trace the relationship between form composition and plan relationship. And when we draw trust drawing or one's eye view, so I can check the current configuration and elevation at the same time. And when I try to perspective, draw perspective is case to show to clients. I don't usually do rendering. In the sketch, what I show you today is this sketch for clients. I literally show them my small sketches, small sketch tool, and something on drawer sketch, and I just show them. I don't render, but I make up many more physical models. One to very abstract, one to 2000 plaster casting model, and one to 100 one to 20, 30 interior perspective. At once, I projected at once a sketch, one sketch, and the restricted sketch and computer drawing of the CAD drawing, and many scale other enforcement. And then they go behind.
Yeah, I think for us, the way we draw and make things visible is consubstantial with where the architecture goes. So I don't know between the chicken and the egg where it starts exactly, but I know that in the very beginning we started doing collabs for practical reasons, which is that it was cheaper and faster to do the render positions, but then basically we started doing a kind of architecture that we could only do because we were doing collabs. And then progressively we played with other types of representation, and the architecture evolves in parallel. So for example, I think the house that I showed with the split levels, the disappearance of glass bricks, and right at the same moment when we start doing these images that look like computer recovery wireframes, you see the whole system in transparent. And I don't know exactly, I cannot tell more which one comes first or what drives the other, but I think the representation is only useful really if it leads you to different type of architecture. If it's just to make a future image or more interesting image of the same architecture, there's no problem. If it pushes you somewhere else, then yes. So that's why we keep experimenting with this.
because I think what's quite interesting also in the drawings from the plan, I think in both cases, like, you mentioned quite a lot on columns. I think in a few projects you also talk about the role of columns in the houses and how the kind of spaces respond to that. And that's why I think the kind of representation and working method seems to be quite interesting because it somehow sort of emphasizes that role of the column. I think anything to add to that. But I thought it's quite interesting to see how the parallel of the architectural elements in both cases.
It's one question, but yeah, taking into elements is also important for us in the sense. Even though the mode of construction in Portugal, there's not a lot you can really. It's extremely rare in Portugal to do a structure that wouldn't be repeated. This for the vertical structure. Because of simply, it would be extremely hard to find a company to do it, and it costs the same, not a huge amount of money to do metal or wooden structure. So let's say we have actually a very pragmatic way of building, and then there are still some elements that become more visible. So it's a tension that I think exists in all the country.
I said further is what's relevant so I try to clarify the rotation of the two, or try to make a ambiguous position curve. So because the curve is very scientific and continuously improving, but in the drawing, curve is only pointed what is right. Only curve is pointed, so it's practically I portion of beautiful drawing. So it not relative to the engineering position. I only sometimes pursue the position of curve is tension between the room or between the wall, between where is the path located for graphic make beautiful. Frankly, I think but in that way, if by the reconstructed in your state, I feel a little similar sense of the beauty that I found another time.
Okay, interesting. I think now we're going to open up the stage to the Q&A. So. And you pass me the microphone.
It's okay, I can just speak loudly.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. But I mean, I was thinking, showing the thing which is remarkable about this is the similarities. The work, two architects working opposite sides of the planet, and you could say, you could link that to striking similarities between Porto and Seoul in terms of the urban condition and the kind of sites and opportunities, topography, kind of buildings. Perhaps even the construction industry, still using a lot of concrete. But then really strikingly is the references include Kazuo Ishihara Caesar from kind of mid-70s up to like 1983, but it's like we've got the same library. It's really extraordinary looking at the same things. So, and of course the work is very, very different, but I don't know how to deliver that is with the organisers, but that was what was really a joy to kind of see those parallels. It's just so striking to see the similarities between the work.
Really, that's not a question. I agree, there are many similarities, and I've actually been in the conversation a couple of times, not in the same room, but via Zoom or maybe via text, actually. But yeah, it's almost too similar.
The question would be how, I assume, how come we're in this room together now? How did that come about?
That's a question for these guys.
No, because it's a great combination, and perhaps another way to say this, why are you looking at the same architects and a lot of architects? They're kind of Ishihara is like architects. It's like one of those architects which is just so intense. It's like poetry. It's quite a private kind of language in a way, and he really controlled the representation of his work as well. And you talked a bit about photographs of his work. But it's just so striking that has such a powerful, something from a different era and a different culture has such a powerful effect on both of your work. A generation too late.
Any other questions?
I think probably there is a desire today to find new, or to look back at certain understanding figures of the era. And I think so architects that Caesar is widely celebrated all around the world. Somebody like Ishihara, let's say, remains, as you said, an architect's architect. But I think there's a legacy there that will. Actually, this year is the 100th birthday of his. And so there are quite a few things happening, including books that will come out. So I think there is a desire to let's say, find, to find new points of references just before, I imagine, that moment of, let's say, superstar architecture in the 90s and 80s. So I think maybe there's something that is wider than Ishihara. But it's a good question. But for us, it's something. Philip, Anna, and myself all worked in Japan during our studies, and actually in different offices, and the architects we were working with were looking at, and I think that's how we got the iris. There's also a tradition in there's a certain where I studied in Zurich, there's a tradition of looking at that as well. It has been documented.
It may be the short answer. In my point of view, postcards situation, in Korea situation, are really similar. I think economic crisis and of course all the world is crisis, but I wrote to the critic of FALA in West University. I mentioned about what can we do, anything. I think many architects interpret FALA work as a joyful and gratified, but I said his work, I find sadness. Because what can I do? This kind of crisis. I cannot get the work, cannot get the project. Many big companies have a big project. So as a young practice, they don't they cannot have anything. Just making exaggerated love and it's colorful rally. For me, it's pretty your work. I'm sorry. But it's for me, it's the same. Yeah, same thing. In Korea, many big architecture company take a big project and as not young, but as a middle young architect, I can't do anything but make columns distinctly, make using the strengths in material in the room. I think it is a very common connection unconsciously between us. And second thing, Kazuo Shinohara, it arises today. I think it is 10 years ago in the Europe, from the Europe. I think many architecture existed with the reasonable process in the designing. For Shinohara, spoke this process with a very subjective way, and with his original major work is mathematics. So his basic plan is very beautiful. So his space very sensible, and plan is very mathematical. I think it would be striking to many existing architecture about the reasonable process like a BIG. BIG make their form A make B, B make C, C make D. It is bullshit, I think. It is not exist in this discussion, discourse, in architecture discourse. Basically, I think architecture seems like engineering, but I think architecture is a very artistic process because we can think about our brain in the designing. Architecture mind is very artistic mind. Building is very engineering products. Finally, so architecture is interesting for us. So architecture is hard to practicing in this way at the same time. Okay, so I think Shinohara is always address the beauty in the house, and basically I like the beauty. They like the beauty, and their basic situation in their country is maybe similar. So it all comes from the frustration of the original work process. And the counter efficacy is binding for field in these studies. Thank you. Well,
Fine. Thank you for your presentation. It's really amazing. Seems like reference is key part of your project, as even Jaewon defined his work as hyper-referential architecture. So I just wonder how or when do you bring it in your project? Is it because it seems to me reference is used as images, which is very invisible, which is very visible. So how does it start to play with the invisible aspect? For example, program. Is reference as images is key driver of your project, or you bring in something of the later stages? Because if you set up your reference as the image from the very beginning as metaphor, as the metaphor will be changes at the invisible aspect develop, or how does it work with the? Basically, I wonder the relation between the invisible aspect and then the visible aspect as you using the reference.
It's a relation, I think, between image and in my process. You mentioned about relation between image and product and image, between image and image and image with my thoughts. I think it can be very unresponsible answer, but it is true. It toward high referential architecture. High referential is meta referential. I explained it as they have no connection. Sometimes a loose connection. Sometimes no connection. Sometimes literally copying the figure of the door. Sometimes I influenced by invisible mind of Michelangelo structure. It unfinished the structure and unfinished the drawing by Francis Bacon is it's a kind of stop before the reasonable and logical final product. I think Francis Bacon, I heard it intentionally make a unrepresentational brush before presenting the face, because he died sensation. In his book, Logic of Sensation, he described that before finally it have a complete face before they stop. This is stop and intentionally make a brush on the presentation of brush. I think its mind is important. It's itself is not important for me. sometimes. And so I try to make my building staying with ambiguous state. Sometimes it can be interpreted as A, sometimes it could be. It's very ambiguous. And intentional approach. It's a kind of methodology in individual things I create. And individual things, literally I copy sometimes. In my Mawan Villa project, you remember the entrance exaggerated beam and or something is it obviously copying the James Sterling start gallery entrance. It is just scale make a shrink to the small building, and I'm not guilty about that. So it can be quite workable.
So, for example, one of your projects, you use the cat as a metaphor.
Yeah.
So it is something like you design a building and then you find out later, oh, it's looks like cat. So you put the mouse on it, or is it something cat is key driver before the project, for example?
It is obviously first intention. At first, I decided to make some mask, and then I quickly decided it as a cat mask because in general we designed the roof. In general, this gable is very common, but this time it's also common in the agricultural disaster. So it is naturally emerging this line, and you can see it is balance project. It is naturally, maybe I think emerging is the figure. I think, but it is 100 natural figure is not. I think it's not innocent. Intention is maybe 37.5%. Then the rest is naturally emergent.
Thank you.
On that note, I think we ran out of time. Thank you so much for Jaewon and Ahmed to come.
Thank you.
Talk. And also thank you all for coming. So thank you very much. And hope you have a pleasant evening here. And good night. Friends and organized this talk.